What's good, Raider Nation? Welcome to episode 2 of Repping Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Mason Riggs. Today I'm going to be going over some tweets from some writers that cover the Raiders, Ted Nguyen, Jerry McDonald, as well as Michael Gehlken. So I'm just going to be going over some tweets and then maybe some of the some things that stood out in interviews and thoughts on some pictures or video of players and my thoughts, and then touch on more Alec Ingold and J.J. Nelson specifically. So the last 2 days have been the first time the team's been able to practice all together this training camp. So the first day would have been July 26th. So right now I'm going to go over some tweets that stood out to me from Ted Nguyen. Give him a follow at FB_film analysis. He's a really, really good writer that covers the Raiders. So first off, one of the big tweets that really stood out to me is that he mentions how Waller beat Abrams for a big play on an out route, then smoked Joseph on a double move and won on another route against an unidentified safety in one-on-ones. He's a tough cover. Also, he has a little clip of Darren Waller running a little shoot route. And man, let me tell you, he is one smooth athlete. He is every bit 6'5", 255 with that speed still. He can move. He is going to be a matchup nightmare just the way he looks. He's a natural athlete. Another tweet that, the next tweet he had was Josh Jacobs beat Johnathan Abrams on a real route on 7-on-7. So back to back, first couple tweets, Johnathan Abrams was struggling a little bit in coverage, which is to be a little bit of expected. He's more of a run and chase safety, but he does have the ability to cover a little bit, especially running backs and tight ends. The next tweet that kind of stood out to me is Morrow in coverage greater than just smothered Jalen Richard and got a knockdown on an angle route. Morrow, I'm just continue to be impressed with the small school product. Kind of has been forced into a lot of snaps over the past couple years due to injury or ineffectiveness of people above him. But man, does he have a role for a coverage linebacker. I'm really hoping at a congested position linebacker, I really hope he makes a team because he is just, in my opinion, by far their best coverage linebacker. And, against San Diego and Kansas City Chiefs, it is critical that we have a coverage linebacker. He seems to be the best at it. Another tweet on the 27th from Ted was another completed bomb by Carr to Waller over Harry this time. So right away, Waller just abusing matchup problem. Like I said, he played receiver at Georgia Tech. Struggled with problems off the field, substance abuse, PEDs and stuff like that. When he was on the Ravens, and then we picked him up. Biggest takeaway that. Couple biggest takeaways from the 27th that Ted saw was more design running back pass concepts. So basically that means, get a running back, you start him out wide, bring him inside, and run an angle route with him, or you start him in the backfield, run him out, run him out wide. So really using the running back as a chess piece, that really makes sense. Josh Jacobs is very versatile. He can definitely catch the rock, did at Alabama, and Jalen Richard is arguably a top 5 pass catching back in the league. So it makes sense to utilize both those guys. I can't wait to see if they use a package where they have both of them on the field at once. In that same tweet, for biggest takeaways, he said Carr throwing a lot more bombs. I like that. I think it's important that they do that. Carr needs to, it's great if you have Tyrell Williams that can take the top off and Antonio Brown that can run every route. And potentially if J.J. Nelson makes a team, he's as fast as they come. It's great if they do that, but you have to be willing to throw it. And I think Carr is. I really do. I think the most important thing is that he has faith in his offensive line and they can keep a rather clean pocket for him, which I'm hopeful that, they're going to be able to do that this year with the signing of Trent Brown and bringing in Richie Incognito eventually. That should, and Gabe coming back healthy. Colton Miller another year under his belt. He's looking big, looking much improved. So I'm hoping. And then last takeaway, major takeaway was Waller looks like a matchup nightmare. Yep, exactly. He's just a smooth athlete. Played receiver in college. It just makes sense. So then we'll work our way to Jerry McDonald on the 27th and see some things that he had that stood out. First off, it's Gruden's pushing tempo early with quarterbacks, running backs, receivers at Raiders practice. I like that. I think it's important to play with tempo. When you have a defense on their heels, you have to be able to execute fast. Keep them on the field. When you have a matchup that you like, you got to play with tempo. So, and doing that early, I like to see that. He put a couple drops on out patterns by Aitman and Doss. So that's a really tough competition group. With Aitman, Doss, Nelson, Renfro, Grant, Brown, Williams. There's just so many players. So those drops ain't helping them. That's for sure. But, then he said Marcel Aitman made a nice catch on the sideline, so kind of redeemed himself. Keon Hatcher with a nice snags over Conley. So Conley getting beat by Hatcher a little bit. I got a lot of faith in Conley, though, so I'm not going to really worry on that so much. I believe, he's our best cover corner right now. Hunter Renfro doing some nice work versus Marcus Joyner, matchup Gruden was looking for. Nice, I know. Hunter Renfro really stood out the past few days, with the smooth sure-handedness to the coaches as well, to Gruden as well as the offensive coordinator, Olsen. So I like that. I honestly think Renfro is going to be a major factor for us. Waller taking the top off from the inside in line and then outside Williams and Brown. I think Hunter Renfro should be able to eat a lot inside, or if it's Ryan Grant who gets some of those reps too. That's cool. I just love the guy. All-time leader in college football playoffs. Catches, receiving yards, touchdowns. He also talks about Waller. Waller gets downfield to catch one in traffic from Carr down the right sideline on the 27th. That's nice. And then looking at the next guy, we'll go to Michael Gehlken and see what he has written tweet-wise on the 27th. He's got some tweets on about how athletic Derek Carr's interview. Derek Carr said he wants to scramble more in 2019. I feel like I'm athletic enough to do some damage that way, and I haven't done any enough off-season focus for him. Yep, Derek Carr is athletic enough. If you look at his agility in 40 times, he's plenty athletic enough. He just has to be willing and go through his progressions fast enough to have the confidence and, to make those scrambles. We need him to. We're not asking him to be Rich Gannon or Michael Vick here, but a couple times a game you're gonna need to pick up a first down. So I really like that Carr knows that and that he's working on it. And then another interview that kind of stood out was Richie Incognito. Was interviewed on the 26th, and he was talking about how he wants to be a leader, and that he's doing everything that he can. And that, it's about redemption this last time. And I'm all for it, as long as he stays straight and narrow path with us. I got no problem with him being on the team. I'm actually looking forward to that Mauler at left guard next to Colton Miller. And then looking at this today, Waller continues to be just a matchup problem. It's apparent that he's going to be a really good player. And then on the today, which is the 28th, I guess the big star was J.J. Nelson for the receiving core, and that's a big deal for him. He offers something unique with his 4.3 speed that a lot of our other receivers don't really necessarily have. So he does have a unique trait that kind of separates himself. But I honestly thought, he might be left out just because he's not as complete as a receiver. He's kind of struggled the last few years. I thought maybe they would be inclined to keeping more of a younger player like a Keelan Doss. But he made some good plays today down the middle on some post routes. So that's important. And then another tweet that kind of stood out to me was that the fact that Dwayne Harris, Richard, J.J. Nelson, and Hunter Renfrow were taking turns fielding kickoffs. That's important because Dwayne Harris is also a receiver, and if you could find someone potentially that could fill the returning duties, that kind of opens up a spot in a way. The big play of the day that I seen that was tweeted out by the Raiders was Johnathan Abrams breaking it, playing a deep safety, breaking in on a ball thrown by Carr. We had Doss running a post, it appeared, guarded by Conley, and Abrams just flashes the last second and picks the ball off. That's good to see. Abrams, seeing that, making a play on the ball, showing the ball skills, that really fires me up. His biggest question mark, I would say, would be his, deep coverage ability. So seeing him break on the ball and make a play, it's definitely nice. We also had Antonio Brown back on the field, early on. Expect him to, participate thoroughly in practice sometime in the next few days. Another thing that really stood out to me is the Raiders are posting pictures, and Jalen Richard, man, let me just tell you, he is a hard worker. He's got an upper body on him. You can tell he's been working out, and I think he's really gonna surprise even more people with his 5 yards per carry plus average and his receiving skills. I think he's gonna really, really provide a nice weapon for this Raiders offense. Also, looking at pictures of a rival, Brandon Parker, right tackle, is going to be the swing tackle on both sides for the Raiders this upcoming year. Second-year player. He is a monster. He is a mountain of a man now. He is becoming a man. He has put on some big-time strength, which is going to help him. That's really nice to see. And then as well as Colton Miller. Colton Miller, you can definitely tell, is bigger than he was last year. And, he's got all the athletic ability. He played really good before he got injured. These young guys, when they come out, they just need to get stronger. And I'm glad to see that the Raiders appear to have getting stronger. Other note is Chris Warren got released today. Supposedly he came in a little out of shape, Greg Olsen said, which is the reason why they cut him. He led the NFL last year in preseason rushing yards. The Raiders designated him with a knee injury and IR'd him to kind of stash him for this year. However, I was really never too high on him. He's a bigger back, but really he didn't really fall forward and lower his pads enough for a big guy. He being that big, he has a lack of wiggle in him. And he kind of only, in my opinion, he had some big holes when he was making those runs, and he only was kind of getting what was blocked for him in last year's preseason. So I just think that, he wasn't up there with a DeAndre Washington, definitely not a Richard, with Doug Martin. So him leaving doesn't, really shock me completely. Another standout that was reported today was Alec Ingold, the fullback, who's getting all the reps right now with Keith Smith out with a knee injury. I'm really high on him. He played at Wisconsin, played in the I formation, complete fullback. Was a high school quarterback. So he's got some athleticism to him. This past year, in 11 games, he had 26 attempts for 143 yards, 5.5 yards a carry, 6 touchdowns rushing. That's really effective. That's short yardage back right there. And then he also had some receiving abilities, 5 receptions, 93 yards for 18.6 yards a catch, 1 touchdown. So 7 touchdowns from scrimmage. He had 21 touchdowns from scrimmage in his career. Folks, it's productive as a fullback. And playing at Wisconsin, he's a smash mouth football player that I just think, even before Keith Smith got injured, I really wanted Alec Ingold to make the team because I believe he's an NFL-ready fullback. He does have to get a little bit better, in the run game and with technique and stuff. But, it's not like Keith Smith was, a top 20 fullback in the league that stood out, really, in my opinion. So I was really high, hoping that Alec Ingold would make a move in it. From all the reports, he's making plays in the passing game and flashing a little bit. So that's nice. Well, that's all for this episode of Reppin' Raiders. I'm your host, Mason Riggs. Talk to you soon. Tweet me at Mason Riggs. Go Raiders.